So first, let's welcome to the stage 5 years with the Mike Ferry organization, 533 transactions, Mr. David Vanoy. Hold your applause. Hold your applause. Mr. David Vanoy. David, how are you?
Hi, Mike.
Thank you for being here. Just grab any chair you would like. Take the one in the middle. Okay? Number two, 20 years with us, and we're going to hold all the applause till the end. Over 1,500 transactions, Miss Cindy Stewart. Cindy, if you would, please. There you go. Cindy, welcome. I'm glad you're here again. Why don't you sit next to David? Number three is a couple, husband and wife team from Tampa, Florida. 17 years with us, over 1,600 transactions. John and Maria Hoffman. John and Maria, if you would, please. Nice to have both of you here. Why don't you guys take the two end chairs? John, thank you. One of my golfing buddies for fun. Next, 17 years with us, 1,700 transactions. Michelle Sayward, S-A-W-A-R-D. Hello, Miss Michelle. They're cheering for you in advance.
Oh, good.
Why don't you sit next to John, okay? Then from, who all of you have met time and again, from Hendersonville, Tennessee, 13 years with us, 1,750 personal transactions, Mr. Bernie Gallerini. Bernie?
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're a popular guy and you have earned it, okay? And then number one in terms of transactions, 19 years with us, 2,400 transactions, Mr. Greg Sisson. Greg, if you would, please. Now let's give all of them a big round of applause. Come on, big hey! So, as I did yesterday, I'm going to come down here because up there I can't hear a word they say and I want to hear what they say. So I'm going to start, if I may, with David Vanoy. What made you make the decision to join us 5 years ago? Because you're one of the newer members of the team.
5 years ago, there was a producer in my town that I was trying to figure out how he was doing a lot of deals. And I had never heard the name Mike Ferry before. Went to his office, unbeknownst to him, knocked on his door. He let it slip that he was working with Mike Ferry. I joined in the parking lot of his office on the website. Never heard the name Mike Ferry before and joined immediately in coaching. That was 2013.
Tell them where you live.
Kansas City, Missouri.
Kansas City, Missouri?
Sure, Missouri.
Did he say Missouri or Missouri? Oh, I thought it was Kansas City,
Whichever
Missouri.
one you're sending a referral to is where
I always thought it was Kansas City, Missouri. Okay. We've been there many times. It's a great town. You've done extremely well as a real estate agent. What is the one or two things that you want to share with this group that you think are important for all of us to know, understand, and learn?
Well, I was 10 years in the business before I met your system, and I call that BM, before Mike. And it was BM. When I met you in 2013, I felt like I actually knew what I was doing and I actually knew where I was going. So the 2 points I would give is, one thing that I wish I could tell myself 5 years ago is it's all about consistency in this business.
All about consistency. Good, I like that.
The winners will do things consistently, and the losers will do some of the right things inconsistently.
So the difference between the winners and losers is the consistency or inconsistency of what they do.
That's my belief.
Boy, I'll tell you what, if anybody that doesn't write that one, inconsistent. Okay, good for you. What's the second thought you want to share?
Second thought would be, 5 years ago when I was sitting in the back of the room at my first retreat, I wrote down some goals that I didn't think were very attainable. And now I know that 5 years later that they were very attainable if I just listen to you, follow the system, and write them down. So my suggestion would be, wherever you are, write the 1 year, the 5 year, and the 10-year plan, even if you don't think it's attainable, and read it every week, minimum.
Boy, that is just, I got to tell you, that is just such solid, good, common sense advice. And thank you for those thoughts. As a newer member of our group, those are really strong, okay? So now I'm going to move to Michelle, because Michelle is 17 years with us.
Yeah.
So Michelle, tell them first, where do you live and where do you work?
I'm just southeastern Detroit,
Real loud.
southeastern Detroit area.
Southeastern Detroit.
Yeah, it's the suburbs of Detroit.
Okay.
Is where I'm at.
Good.
And I've 17 years.
And you've done over 1,700 transactions.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Average year, the last couple of years, how many deals are you doing?
I've been stuck at the 185 marker for a couple
sorry?
years. I'm stuck at 185 deals.
You're stuck at 185.
Yeah.
Life's a bitch.
Yeah.
Now the disadvantage is your average sales price is pretty low, isn't it?
Yeah, it's about 160.
160. So what do you earn on 185 deals?
Last year I did 890,000.
So in your marketplace, that is a lot of bucks.
I'm told that. It's
Yeah.
not
Good for you.
Mike Ferry money, but it's good for my area.
Good for you. Yeah, pocket change, right? There you go.
Yeah.
So what are the one or two things that you would like to share with this audience?
The one thing that stands out for me is that every single day I do something that's hard. I had this conversation with Ken Price last night. The Obstacle is the Way is the title of a book. And if you're going to do something that's hard for you every single day, and that's different for each one of us in this room.
Sure.
So it could be making that hard phone call to someone that you adore, like my best friend selling her house and she needs to do a price reduction. It's a dreaded phone call. It's important to do. It could be getting on the phone when you're resisting it. It's going hard when you want to quit, which is one thing I do very consistently. I just want to quit after working long days. Work ethic has never been hard for me. Work
Okay.
ethic is there,
Okay.
but then I go harder.
So you are saying that doing that one hard thing every day is the difference.
More than one. You do it a lot in a
All
day.
Okay, good for you.
But find that thing and rip the Band-Aid off quick and do it.
Okay, so you would rather do those hard things fast, get them out of the way and move on.
Pardon?
You'd rather do those hard things fast, get
Yes.
them out of the way and move on.
Yes, because if you don't do those hard things fast, they play in your mind and you dread them and you put them off.
They grow.
And it ruins
They
you.
grow inside your head.
Yeah.
Good for you. That's interesting. We've known each other forever, but you've just told me something very important about yourself, which thank you.
Yeah.
So what's number two?
Number two is mindset. Hands down. I've learned from your company and from other agents here in this room more than ever how to change my mindset in an instant. Silly, silly stuff. I was taking my broker's exam 2 weeks ago, and my contact lens was drying out and popping out when I was trying to take my exam, and my brain went to, you're not gonna be able to see to finish this test in time. Wait, Michael Phelps won an Olympic gold with his water in his goggles. You got this.
That's right. Good for you.
But now I can consistently talk to myself that way, which from where I came from and where I began, I would have never spoke to myself that way in the beginning.
So where did you come from?
What's that?
Where did you come from?
Well, the suburbs of Detroit, blue collar. My parents lied to me and told me I was middle class. No.
Isn't that great? Let me tell you, you don't look middle class to me. You look like top of the class, let me tell you.
Yeah.
That
So-
is great. Well,
Yeah.
thank you for that great advice.
Yeah.
Okay, that is really great. Good for you. So John and Maria have been clients, 17 years, done 1,600 deals, and for many, many, many years, John was the rainmaker on listings, and Maria was running the staff and a showing agent. And then I think it was 3 or 4 years ago, John woke up to the fact that his wife could be a powerful listing agent. And it took a while for him to shake the thought that this isn't Maria, the showing agent, this is Maria, the powerful listing agent, who I think today probably outproduces John on listings. Now-
Yes, she does.
Yeah. That was called a delayed response from John. Okay.
We're a team.
Maria, you've been a listing agent now for what, 3.5 years?
About that, yeah.
Okay. So how many listings do you two together take per month?
About 110.
A month?
Yeah.
A month? A month?
Oh, a month?
Yeah.
10.
About 10.
About 10 a month. Good for you. So, Maria, as a newer to the listing side, where John is the veterans on listings, I'll go to you first. What advice would you give these great people to help them do what you've done the last 3 years so well? Because I have to tell you, for those that know John and Maria, it has been a wonderful evolution, and it's made John so much better as Maria became better. Wouldn't you agree, John?
Oh, absolutely, because a little back, I kind of moved out of real estate for a few years pursuing other business interests, and Maria was able to take over because with your help, we positioned her to do that.
Yeah, which was great.
And so now I'm re-entering the real estate side of the business full time starting last month. So right now, we expect to have tremendous growth over the next 12 months.
Which is great. So Maria, first thought you want to share with the group, please.
Number one, the power of the accumulation effect.
The power of the accumulation
You've
effect.
told us that, it's what we do day after day after day, and how tiny habits repeated day after day add up to tremendous growth. And also it's the things that we don't do, or the negative things, or skipping a role play. So when I first became a listing agent, I knew I had my job cut out for me because we had some really high goals. I had to practice so much. I had to role play every single day, the listing presentation, the objection handlers, and so it was just repeating that over and over. And also when it comes to the numbers, really looking at the numbers every single day. And I'm an expressive, I'm not obsessed with the numbers, but I literally became obsessed with tracking my numbers.
Which is a big deal.
It's a big deal, and you can't lie to yourself when you actually look at the real numbers every single day.
Good for you.
And if you're on track.
Second thought you want to share.
The second part, I would just have to, I'm just so thankful. I thank God to be here, and thank you for everything you've done, is the power of this group of people is amazing. And it's choosing to surround yourself with people that are doing more than you are. And the people in this room are so amazing. And I think the biggest thing I learned is that they're so humble, and that just about anybody in this room, if you were to go up to them and talk to them, they would share with you. And so if you're here for the first time or you're new to the group, don't hesitate to make connections in this room, because this has become like a family to me. So
that's nice.
Yeah.
That's a nice thought. Thank you. John, number one. And you can applaud that, of course. Thank you. John, don't get carried away. They're not applauding you in advance. Okay, just checking. Okay.
Thank you for that. For the newer agents and agents that aren't producing at the level they want, you get that, whatever that number might be. What I learned is that your mindset is under attack every day.
Mindset is under attack every day, which is a truth we all have to learn to live with.
So if you get up and watch the news, and then you go to the office and the other agents tell you who's Mike Ferrio, he's a cold caller, or you watch stupid TV shows and you listen to other bad opinions. Your wife could be a bad influence, not you, honey. So when you realize this and you go, that's true. It's because everyone talks about, and the folks sitting in the first two rows all have tremendous mindsets, but you have to work at it. And you need to eliminate the negative, and you have to learn how to feed the positive. And that's a learned skill. And if you don't learn that skill, I think you're going to have a much harder road reaching your potential and doing the amount of transactions that you want to do. It's critical.
Yeah. Number two.
This was funny. This took me forever. Versatility. I'm a driver. and my listing presentations were driver-like. And I used to make amiables cry. I pissed off the expressives and left the analyticals wanting more.
But outside of that,
So I had to learn how to become an amiable. Oh my God. And
you still have a lot to learn.
and of course I had to learn, you know, how to become amiable, but I had a great coach. And so my mindset is this now: if I go out on a listing presentation and I don't get it, and it turns out that the other agent listed it at the same price and the same commission, I'm still not versatile enough. Because if I was more versatile, I would have gotten the listing. You can get undercut on commission and overpriced, but if that's not the case, it's my fault. I'm not versatile enough, and you have to continually work on this.
So technically you're saying, and I really admire what you said, you take responsibility on the ones you don't get because it probably demonstrated a lack of versatility when you're talking to that seller.
Oh, it's completely my fault.
That deserves a round of applause. Okay, that is really, thank you, John. Good thought, okay? So let's go to Mr. Greg. Greg, you've been with us for 19 years, 2,500 transactions, okay? You and I go back a long ways because of your dad.
Yeah.
I mean, we go back, what, 35 years with your dad, I believe.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And it was kind of nice. 2 years ago, Greg brought his dad to the event, and I hadn't seen his dad for 15, 20 years. Great guy.
Yeah.
So you had a great mentor in your father. You had a great mentor in Greg Harrelson sitting behind
Yep.
me. You've had some great coaches. That's a lot of deals that you've done. So how many deals will you do this year? Well, first tell them where you live.
Myrtle Beach, South Carolina.
Myrtle Beach, and that's a gigantic population of what, 12?
Close.
Yeah.
We've got about 300,000 residents in our county.
In the
Our
county.
county is the biggest county in the state, so we don't serve the whole county.
Okay, so you have blockage to the east of the ocean, blockage to the west of the mountains. So your market is somewhat confined. Greg and I talk about this all the time. It's somewhat confined, okay? So what is the most important thing you would like to share with this audience?
Well, you know, I wrote down making the connection between prospecting and your success. And I know it's the blinding flash of the obvious, but I think in today's world more than ever, we try to create opportunities or things to do to get to that next level or get to our goals when it really, there isn't one. I mean, there is some of things, but not to get you to the level that we're here to get to. So connecting, prospecting every single day. If you didn't prospect, you really didn't go to work that day. I think that's the mindset you have to have.
So you've been in the business how long?
Well, Greg hired me in May of '99, and I did about 18 months. So '97, I did on-site sales for about 18 months before Greg took me on, and I did. You took it away from me, and I'm glad you did. But I owe a great debt of gratitude to Greg Harrelson, who I spent a tremendous amount of time, was a great mentor.
So you've been in the business a long time.
About 20. This is my 20th year.
And do you still actually prospect every day?
Every single day.
How many hours?
Minimum 2, but usually it's between 2.5 and 3 hours.
Who do you call?
You know, I still call expireds every day, even though it's extremely competitive and less of them. But my database is about 55% of my business now, thankfully.
So you
And
call a
so
lot of your
that's where I
database.
spend the majority of my time.
Good for you. And you actually, I mean, I wanted to understand, you actually do prospect 5 days a week.
I do. And Greg used to smack me on the head when I didn't do that.
I remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, Greg would call me and say, I just smacked him on the head again, okay? So you're saying to us, if we can connect the dots between my talking to people and my total production, if I connect those dots, I've got it made.
Absolutely. You made the point before we came out, the continuously talking to people and aggressive lead follow-up. I mean, that's what we do every day and why we're at the level we're at.
Good for you. Number 2.
Yeah, I mean, John and I didn't compare notes, but certainly the mindset issue. I found an old notebook that you said the following: the hardest part of life is controlling the mindset.
Yes.
And so you've got to control what you allow into your head. I mean, we're responsible for what we allow to come into our head. That comes to the media. That comes to what we choose to do the night before to get prepared for the next day. I mean, everything is a mindset. The people that you surround yourself with, drama in the office, it takes away from. So you have to, it's like a battle every day to protect your mind. I think that's certainly very critical. And it's something that we really don't ever master. It's just something you have to be aware of and work on every day.
Good for you. That's just really great advice, and we thank you for that. Absolutely. Good for you. Thank you. Okay. Cindy, tell them where you live, please. Where do you live? Where do you live?
Just northeast of Atlanta, Georgia.
Atlanta, Georgia.
Yep.
Good. And how long have you lived in Atlanta, Georgia?
Close to 30 years.
30 years. And you've been with us for 20 years.
Correct.
Is that most of your career, or is that just part of it?
That's most of my career.
Okay. How did we meet 20 years ago?
Well, the first time I ever met you was at a one-day seminar.
Okay.
And I was leaving that following week on my honeymoon. So I got married, left. And I won the Action Workshop tapes.
Oh, okay.
It was just meant to be.
Good for you. And you listened, absorbed, and did. Because you've done, watch, over 1,500 transactions. What is your average sales price today?
Today, it is about $220, $225.
Okay. Average commission check?
Somewhere between $75,000 and $8,000.
So what will you earn this year?
This year, close to $400.
Good for you. And where you live, that is a lot of money.
Right.
Good for you. So what are the two things you want to share with the audience?
You know, it was really just kind of nerve-wracking trying to pick one or two things because there's just so many. And I was thinking probably the biggest or the best piece of advice I ever got was to, you know, you come to the event, you hear you're giving us 400 plus points and just overwhelm, you know, going into overwhelm. And too many times I came to the events and took nothing back, or I took a lot back, but I didn't take any action on anything. So my advice would be to take one thing at a time. You know, just pick one thing, one part of the system, and master it completely.
Good for you.
Yeah.
So what was the first thing you did? Do you remember?
That was my second piece of advice. Was the first thing that when I really went back to look at it, the first thing that I did was to master my morning schedule.
Master the morning schedule.
Yep, that's money time.
Yep, we used to talk about that all the time. Remember, Cindy?
Yeah, so mastering the morning schedule, that's money time. Nothing is gonna fall apart before noon. Nothing really bad can happen before noon. And it's so funny because my husband used to call me every morning and say, hey honey, what's for dinner?
Let's what?
I'm like,
What's for
okay,
dinner?
so finally my coach, I think it might've been Kathy Anderson then or something, said, you know, figure out how much you're worth per minute that you prospect. So I told my husband, I said, every time you call me and ask me what's for dinner, it's costing us about 800 bucks.
Good for you.
Never called me again.
He never called me again. What great advice, because I think most people never correlate, as Greg just said, they never connect the dots on these simple yet important activities and thoughts. Thank you for 20 years of doing a great job. So Mr. Bernie Gallerini, you used to be a Las Vegas resident. You used to live here.
Yep, I sure did. I moved from here in August of 2004.
And you left the real estate business here to go to the thriving metropolis of Hendersonville, Tennessee.
Yep, the only thing we're missing is people and houses, Mike.
That's right.
I beat you to the punch, that's what Greg said.
That's right, we talked about that a lot. And you moved to Hendersonville, Tennessee because?
I mean, eventually everyone leaves Las Vegas, right?
Okay.
No, we were just tired of it here. We lived here for 10 years. I had two very young girls at the time, and we just didn't feel like raising them in the desert any longer, so we closed our eyes and picked a spot, and Hendersonville, Tennessee was it.
And you really did just virtually pick a spot and move the whole family and started all over.
Yep. So we went to Nashville. We thought Nashville would be a great spot, and so we looked around in Nashville and landed in Hendersonville because there was a lake there.
Yeah.
And that's where we dropped anchor and started selling real estate.
So we've been working together 13 years, and your personal production is nearly 1,800 transactions. And,
Right.
and I'm very, very fortunate. I get to coach Bernie personally, so I know a lot about what he does and how he does it. So what would the first piece of advice you'd give this great group of people today?
You know, I've put a lot of thought to this question since you've asked us to do this panel. And when you and I talked originally about the top 10 things we learned from Mike in the book that you wrote, it's impossible to pick one or two things that make this work. And it's an accumulation effect, like people have talked about. It's a mindset skill. So I would say that for those that are learning the system and trying to understand it, is practice your scripts, right? You have your scripts online, practice your scripts and put that practice into action. And I would recommend that you practice as much as you put it into action. And what you'll find as you practice it more, and then you'll start putting it into action more, you'll start making more money. And the accumulation effect will start to set in that the more you practice, the more money you make.
So you're saying, and I'm going to show her, you said, if you practice as much as you put it into action, good things are going to happen.
Correct.
So it's more than standing up in the morning for 10 minutes and kind of chanting a script out loud. It's really intensely practicing.
Yeah, I think in order to be successful in real estate at this level of what you're asking us to do, you have to immerse yourself completely and dive down as deep as you can and make this a lifestyle. Sure. You're not going to work, I love Karen Bernardi's comment, you're raising a child from infancy, and you're creating a life for yourself. And you know, there's so many great agents here, and I've known so many of you for 13 years, and I remember sitting in the back of the room, Mike, and thinking of what one day that I'd be able to sit up here in the front row. And it was doing all of the things that everybody said on this stage, and that all those folks that I met were practicing every day. And there wasn't an easy way. The only way was the way you told us to do it, which was the way we made the most money. And there's several multimillionaires in this room because of the things you've taught us. So I want to say thank you to you for that.
Thank you. Okay. Thanks for doing it. Okay. Number 2.
This is a good one to write down. And if you blame everybody for your faults, you can change nothing.
If you blame everybody for your faults, you can change nothing. Wow.
But if you blame yourself for all your faults, you can change everything.
Wow, what a great thought. But if you blame yourself for everything, you can change everything.
Correct. So for those of you, and I get an opportunity to be blessed to talk to a lot of you, and I hear lots of different reasons why you're not successful. And if you keep playing that record in your head, then that's the life you live every day. Every day I meet so many great agents who I've seen year after year after year who are stuck at 50 transactions, or 40 or 30 or 60 or 80. And if you continue, and the stories are the same. You know, I'm having staffing issues, I'm having prospecting issues, I'm having relationship issues. If you continue to keep playing that same story, then the result continues to keep showing up. Change the story, blame yourself for where you are, and everybody can have an opportunity to sit in the front row or be up on the stage.
Which is great advice. Thank you. Okay. So, I am going to ask a quick favor of all of you, if you'll just stand up and shake your booty and get stretched out a little bit. And then if you'll give them the applause they deserve, okay? Thank you, Brad. Don't go far. Thank you, thank you. Thank you, David. Thanks, Michelle, great advice. Thank you, Maria. Thank you, John. That's great. Great advice. Wow, that is terrific, thank you. I want to share something with you, so grab a chair. I said to Sabrina briefly yesterday, I said, this is the best audience I've ever had. And I mean that, okay? But everybody say why. I think it may be, and Neil, you've been with me the longest, Joe, you've been with me for a long, long time, maybe the first time we've ever had as much positive response from the second half of the room as we have from the front half. So hold on. I want the front third of the room to stand up. Front third of the room to stand up. Turn around and give a big round of applause to the back third of the room. Great job. Okay? They are terrific. Wow. It's amazing. So thank you for the back half of the room, because really it has been probably first time in many years that we've had as much interaction, participation, response from the second half. You know, people say to me all the time, I want to sit in the front half of the room. I said, come on up. Nobody's stopping us from sitting up there, but I think what was said 3 times and what has been said repetitively, and Sabrina has brought it up to me 2 or 3 times, it is the story that you have in your head about yourself and what you can do that runs your life, okay? And all we're trying to do is help you just change the story a little bit so you can be more productive. So we're gonna have some fun now, okay? About 2 months ago, someplace in Central California, I did a little talk for George Murphy's company. Okay, Shay, and I don't know where Shay's sitting, someplace in here. This SOB, son of broker, okay? Shay and George had a great group that I got to work with for the morning, and Hal Swayze was there, and I said to Hal at the break, I'd like to do something completely different at the retreat. He goes, what do you want to do? I said, I'm going to grab Bernie, Josh, and you and bring you on the stage. He goes, what for? I said, well, you guys are good. You're as good as most. I mean, there's a lot of you in this room. Neil, I mean, I can look at hundreds of you, John, that are phenomenal people at what you do. I said, it'd be fun if we can kind of put you on the hot seat. And Hal said, bring it on. I said, well, you don't even know what I want to do yet. He goes, bring it on. And as soon as he said that, I knew that I had made a good decision for all of us. Because what I said to him is, I'd like to bring the 3 of you on stage, and I'm going to write out some different objections that come up, and I want to just have the 3 of you respond. Now, I want to see the real life, the real you. I want to see your facial expressions. I want to see your hesitations, your little hiccups. I want to see your warts. I want to see the little, I think I made a mistake. I said, I think we could all learn from that, okay? So Hal said, I'll do it. So then I called Bernie, because I was on a coaching call with he and Josh, and I said, would you guys participate? They said yes, okay? So I'm going to invite the 3 of them to come out in just a minute, then I'm going to walk over there, because I want to make sure I can see properly and really hear what's being said. And I'm going to strongly suggest, okay, that you pay close attention. These 3 guys probably annually, personal production, not any team type of stuff, probably are doing, what do you think, John, those 3 guys do? 700-800 transactions? Because you're part, they probably do 1,000, the 3 of them, personal production, not the team. I mean, you know, a lot of you have wonderful teams, but then we have like John, who does so much by himself without a team. So these 3 guys are stronger than 9-day old garlic. So I don't know how they're going to respond. I don't know if they're going to, you know, hiccup. I don't know if they're going to make a mistake, but I'm going to make a suggestion. Don't laugh, don't respond, just right. Okay? So let's welcome back to the stage Bernie, Josh, and Hal, if I may. Okay? Back again. Okay? You just left. Take that chair. Thank you, Josh. What a treat. Hal, thank you. It's your fault if this thing gets all screwed up, because you agreed to do it first. So we're going to look at this thing, and I want to show, we're going to look at this thing from 2 different perspectives. One is you're on the phone trying to get an appointment, because you deal with that a lot, and the questions and problems and objections that come up. And then second, we're going to look at what happens when you're there. Okay, and I would think that when you're there, it's not going to be as tough on you as before you get there on the phone. Would you think that? Does that make sense what I said?
Yeah, sure. Face to face, sure.
I would think the biggest challenge that we all face is that initial contact where you're trying to get that appointment from that person. So I can't hear well if I'm up here to hear you guys, so I'm going to step down. So we'll start with Hal, okay? Hal, you're on the phone talking to a good lead. You've had a conversation, and they're going to ask you, Hal, that inevitable question we hate to hear: what do you charge for commission?
Oh, hey, thanks, Mike. That's a great question. We're going to go over the commission when I arrive, so we'll go into detail all the steps in getting your home sold, and part of that will include the commission.
You make it that easy. Well, what if they say, well, but I want to know exactly what you're going to charge?
You know, commissions are negotiable by law, so we'll go over all that and talk about the commission that will net you the most money. Mike, it sounds like you just want to net the most money when we meet and I sell your house, right?
Correct, yeah. We
Okay.
want to get the home sold.
Yeah, we'll talk about that.
Okay. Makes sense, yes or no? Okay. So, Bernie, can't you just tell me what you're going to do to sell my house before you come out?
You know, Mike, I know that's a really important question that's asked by many, and I'm making a note, Mike, to make sure that that's the very first thing we discuss when I see you Tuesday at 4 o'clock.
But do I have to wait till Tuesday to find out what you're going to do?
Mike, you know, I'll tell you, Mike, one of the things that is part of the process of getting a home sold is actually seeing the property. So once we get together, I'll formulate a marketing plan, and when I see the home, I'll be able to lay that all out to you, Mike, so we'll be able to bring the best price possible for the property.
Okay, so let's stop for a second. Some of these people, I'm going to go to Hal and to Bernie, some of these people are going to say, give me a break. They're going to say to you, well, then screw you. If you're not going to tell me what you're going to charge and not tell me what you're going to do, don't waste your time coming out. How do you respond, Hal?
Say that again.
So if you're not going to tell me what you charge, and if you're not going to tell me what you do, don't waste my time and don't come out.
Mike, at the end of the day, you guys still want to move to San Diego, right? That's what you said?
Correct.
Okay, good. And then what I do want to do is take a look at the house. We'll go over all those steps, and every house is different. Is your house different than every other house?
Well, you know, we've personalized it a lot, and we think it's the best home in the area.
Of course. Okay, so we'll talk about that. I'm going to send you over a package of information. It'll describe the basic things that we normally do to get your home sold and give you the best chance of doing so. Because ultimately, if I'm hearing you right, we want to get to San Diego and get you the most money you can and the time you want. Is that right?
Correct. That's what we want.
And we'll address that when we meet, but I really want to see the house because you want top. So.
Yeah, I would agree. Good.
And Mike, another one for the commission issues, if they're pressing the commission issue, we'll say, you know, I know that's really important, and commission always is. My fee starts at 3% and it goes up from there.
So you start at 3%?
Yeah.
And then you go up?
Correct.
So
they're asking me, they're pressing me for the commission, so what are you charging? 3%, and it'll go up from there.
Now, do you guys catch what he just said there? Because Richard, how are you? 3% is the listing side of a transaction. So you're saying to me then, Bernie, there's a good chance I'll only have to pay a 3% commission?
Well, we'll actually look at the property together and we'll discuss that when I see you Tuesday at 4. Work for you?
Okay, good.
Good.
So Josh, you know, we've talked to several people and your reputation in town is very, very strong. We pretty much have an agent in mind we're going to work with.
Oh gosh, that's great. So obviously you haven't signed a contract yet, is that correct?
No, we haven't gone so far as to sign a contract. We've just picked this great agent to work with.
All right, perfect. Because so many sellers, they take this opportunity typically to interview 2 or 3 of the top agents in the marketplace, compare marketing plans, and this single practice obviously ensures they're going to get the highest price for the home, which is what you want, right?
Correct.
Great. So I look forward to seeing you this afternoon at 4 o'clock.
Okay. I got a nice applaud right here on that one. So let's stop for a second and applaud everything they've said so far. Okay? Which is great.
I'll say just one thing, Mike, on what we're talking about. I want to make sure this point doesn't get missed. We're not actually handling an objection over the phone.
Okay,
we're trying to delay the conversation.
Repeat that.
We're not trying to handle any objection over the phone. We're trying to delay that conversation until we're face to face. That's the appropriate time to handle an objection.
So really, in essence, what you're doing is you're trying to take them off that, show them that when you get there, you can solve the problem they have.
Exactly. So the commission objection, when I get it, and I get it, you know, all the time, it's just that, Mike, what I hear you saying is you want to know exactly what you're going to net out of the sale of the home. Is that correct?
Yes.
That'll be the first thing we talk about when I meet with you this afternoon at 4 o'clock, okay?
Sounds great. Now, let me ask the 3 of you a question. What percentage of the time when you use the types of responses that you use, do you get an appointment versus you don't get an appointment? So Hal, what percentage of the time?
I mean, most of the time. I haven't tracked it, but if they want to sell the house, and unless they just absolutely have already decided on a friend or something on the pre-qual, or I'm setting an appointment, then most of the time I would get the appointment.
So 90%?
Probably. I guess, yeah, I'm guessing. It's a high percent, yeah.
Okay. Josh?
Over the phone?
Yeah.
Oh gosh, it's at least 90%. The thing that I'm thinking about over the phone is I don't want to take a position that I would have to defend.
Okay.
I would much rather have a conversation that leads to an appointment. So I'm staying focused on that on the call.
Okay, that's good. Bernie?
Well, I learned from you that they ask the objection, but they don't really know the right answer. So any answer you give them works.
Yeah.
So
Isn't that a great response? Any answer we give them works if we just give it to them.
So because we're not handling the objection and we give them an answer that we give them, they're perfectly fine with it. They only ask the question because they want to make us feel like they know what they're doing.
So then I'm going to ask the three of you a question about this phone side of this transaction. You're not getting these objections because each of you get a lot of business from your database past client centers of influence. These would come from those people outside of your database. Is that correct?
No, they come from everything.
Yeah, I get them from my database.
Yeah.
You get them from your database.
Yeah, also. Yeah, not as much. But like in watching, I role play with Josh a lot, and he is incredible. And the one thing you get about Josh is you don't have to defend anything, right? It's not you're defending something. It's like when you go see the doctor, he doesn't defend his medical degree or what he's going to charge you. He's saying, this is how it's going to happen, right? And if you take that approach, this is the way it's going to go down. We're going to meet, we're going to look at the house, we're going to talk about the price, we're going to tell you what you do, we're going to talk about showing, talk about getting it ready. This is the way it happens. That's what they want to know.
Assumptiveness, right?
Yeah.
So it's the assumptiveness that you have on the call with the prospect or face-to-face. It's your confidence that you display when you're communicating with them that gives them the confidence to either say yes to the appointment or yes to the signature.
Mike, it's interesting because you have talked for years about how you handed the objections to your client while you started your presentation. And so what I've learned to do when I start my presentation before we go into, are you planning on listing your home with me, and are you willing to price your home to sell? Do you want to leave it on the market for a time? And do you absolutely have to sell the home? I did that backwards, by the way. You guys know that. When you know your scripts, you can do that. They're like, wait a minute, that was supposed to be the other way. When you know it, you're supposed to know it frontward and backward. But what I'll ask them is I'll say to them before I start that process, what is it that you're looking for from the agent that you choose to pick today to get the home sold? So what do you want them to do? And what you'll find is they will come up with the objection, if there is any, right in the beginning of the presentation. So they'll say, well, I really want to talk about the marketing. Like, what do you do to market the home? Great, well, I'll make sure that I address that within the presentation. What do you charge for a commission? And so now I'm going to write that down, make sure that we address that. While I'm doing the presentation, I know the main concerns that they have when I get to the end.
So let me ask you a question. On the phone portion of this transaction, are you hearing a lot of new stuff coming at you from sellers because society has changed so much in terms of things like technology, et cetera, or is most of what you're hearing pretty routine?
It's all the same. 20 years has been the same.
Say it again.
Same.
20 years, it's been the same.
20 years has been the same stuff forever.
Hal needs to get away from me.
Okay. Hal is creating feedback in you. That's good. Hal, would you agree with that?
Yeah. Oh, it's been the same. I'm sorry. I thought I spoke up. Yeah. No, nothing has changed.
Okay. Bernie, would you agree with that?
No, I mean, all the objections are the same. I haven't heard anything new. The responses that we have are work just as well as they did year one that they do in year 13. There's a thing I've written down in my office, and it says we have to logically question them because they make emotional decisions. And so through logical questioning, it makes them think logically, but they're going to fire at us emotionally. So if we have a logical response, they don't know where to go with it. So any answer is going to work. What do you do to sell homes? What are you expecting me to do to get a home sold, or what would you like me to do to sell a home? Well, I don't know. Well, whatever you do.
Which kind of
They
opens the door.
They can't tell you what to do because they don't know what to do, but they just want the question answered, and any answer you give them will work.
So let me give you, that's such a great thought, isn't it? That's a great thought, okay? So let me give you my observation of what I've seen so far. My observation is there's almost no emotion in their responses. Would you guys and gals agree with that? Very logical. I've noticed there's a lot of confidence in what they're responding to and saying. There's no hesitation. They're not going, well, so I'm observing a lack of emotion and a lot of confidence, which comes from a lot of experience in that situation. Would you guys and gals agree with that? So first of all, thank you. That little exercise for all of us was important. So let's go to the second phase. You're on the listing appointment, okay? You're sitting in front of the seller, and Josh, they say to you, well, the other agents that have been here, they've really committed and said they would do a lot to get our home sold, but they've all agreed to do it at 4%, and you're telling us you have to have 6%. Will you, to take the listing tonight, cut your commission?
You know, I really appreciate you asking the question, but let me ask you, is it important for you to get moved to Southern California on time?
Well, yeah, we need to be down in South Orange County in the next 90 days.
Next 90 days? Okay. What happens if you're still on the market 120 days from now? Could that cause a problem for you?
Well, yeah, it's huge, because then I'll have to move and my family will be here, and that's going to create a lot of problems. So we got to get this thing done.
I agree with you, and I think you're right. This is exactly why smart sellers like yourself list it correctly on day one, so they can make their move on time, which is what you want, right?
Correct.
Great. Let's go ahead and sign the contract.
You know, it's pretty hard to fight that, okay? Now, I'm standing out here watching a different response than I anticipated, because I'm watching a lot of you kind of look like, this isn't real, this is a setup. You guys role-played and practiced this a lot. Bernie, how much did we practice and role-play what you're doing right now?
Well, I practice and role play every day with my group of agents.
But how much did we practice and role-play, you and I? This, what you're doing right now.
Well, we didn't even know what we were doing until we were back there.
Okay.
You sent us an email and said, do you guys want to do this? And thanks, Hal, for suggesting all of us do it. Appreciate it. And the group here is like, hey, did you guys prepare? We're like, we don't even know what's coming at us. So thank you for doing that to me.
Well, no.
You know that emoji, you know, that's like the little straight face? They're like, oh crap. That's what I was like before I came out here, like, oh shit.
What I'm observing is such simple, straightforward, logical, common sense responses. That's what I'm observing. I mean, I'm not observing. I kind of thought there would be something kind of exotic taking place here. I thought there might be something like, oh my God, I've never heard that before. I'm a little bit surprised, and I'm a little bit shocked in a very, very positive area of the simplicity of what they're saying. So, Hal, we really like what you've said so far tonight. Agent B that was here last night agreed to drop the commission from 6 to 5. It's vitally important that we get as much money as we want because of our move. Would you consider, or will you move your commission down so we can agree and sign a contract?
Oh, it's a great question, Mike. And I guess my question to you is this. If we can, agree on this commission, did you want me to go ahead and list the property for you?
Correct.
You do want that? Okay, great.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that. So the fee we charge for me and my company to market and do everything we do for the past 27 years to get your home sold is simply 3%. And my recommendation is that we incent the market by offering out another 3%. So that's 6%. So did you want to go ahead and give the most exposure and get the most agents excited so you net the most money by just going ahead with a standard commission?
Okay.
Great. So we'll just charge the regular 6%.
See, it's like a boxing match. They get you boxed into the corner, and all you're doing is defending yourself. You watch Muhammad Ali, one of the great sports people, he gets somebody in the corner and wouldn't have to hit him hard, he just kept hitting him. I feel like I've just been hit 32 times and I liked it. Okay. I'm sitting there going, I can't wait to pay this guy all this damn money. I didn't think I was going to have to do it.
Now, Mike,
Bernie, I want to go ahead, Hal.
can I give you the be honest?
Say it again.
Can I give you the be honest what everybody's wanting to wonder?
Please.
So it will happen if you're not going to list with me no matter what at 5%, then I say we do have one option. And that option is if you want to take the chance, we can lower the buyer's side commission to 2.5%. So if I have to give them a deal, then sometimes it will be a 5.5% fee. And that happens once in a while. So just being completely transparent, that will happen.
Well,
Okay.
5.5% on like $1.2 million.
But we do get our 3%, so that's all that matters, right? So in this marketplace, at 2.5% will be a competitive listing, and it's not. So that happens.
What is your normal average commission, Hal? And I'll ask the same of Josh and Bernie.
It's a little over 20,000.
No, I'm sorry. Commission percentage.
What?
3%, 5%,
Three-
6%. What is your average commission total charge? Is it 6%, 5%? What is your normal?
6 is normal. Yeah, it's already in the contract, so I have to change it if anything happens to 5.5%. It's already it's in.
Okay, and Josh, the same?
It's 6%, it's typed in, I'd have to cross it out to modify it.
Okay, Bernie, same?
6% and a $4.95 broker fee on every deal.
So Bernie, here's what my wife and I have decided to do. We've decided to list with you, but we do want $775. I know you're telling us $695. We figured, you know, we don't have to be gone for a couple months. We can list at this price now. We can always come back down lower and later. Can you
Mike,
you go with that?
I really appreciate the $775. And you're not the first that wanted to overprice the property. Lots of people feel that their home is worth more. You guys have worked really hard to maintain the property. You've lived here and you raised your family here, so it's not uncommon that that happens. Here's a question I have for you though. How long do you want to take if the buyers don't show up to the property before you consider reducing that or adjusting that property down to $725, which is what the buyers are paying today?
Well, the market's been so hot locally and everything seems to be selling so quickly, we figured we could take 30, 45 days before we reduce the price because, you know, if we get $775, it's an extra $50,000 to us.
Well, Mike, I appreciate that. And at $775, it's not going to be 30 to 40 days. It could be 3 to 5 months. Was that something that still worked for you?
Well, we don't want to wait 3 to 5 months. We need to get going a lot sooner than that. So, but can you do it at $775 and drop it, say, in a month?
Mike, I appreciate that. So let me ask you a quick question. At $775,000, how much time do you need for the buyers to continue to keep telling you that that price isn't working?
A lot. It's going to take time. Yeah, I agree with that.
So how long do you need to make that adjustment if the buyers aren't showing up?
Say it again.
How long do you need to see that the buyers aren't interested in the property at $775 before you consider adjusting that price to $7.25?
I've got an idea. I'm going to say to my wife, could we just list it at his price? We're not going to win this battle, okay? See, the problem with what he's doing is I'm backing up defensively because I have no place to go. And he's doing it by asking a lot of what? Notice all they do is ask questions. Gosh, I wish you guys would talk. Be like a regular realtor. But then you wouldn't be on the stage. Interesting, isn't it? Hal, we want to think it over. We need a couple days.
Of course, Mike. And obviously this is a big decision for you and your wife to make this move, correct?
Oh, it's huge. I mean, this is the majority of our life's equity in this house.
Yeah. So, there's really just 3 decisions we have to make today. One is whether or not you're going to sell the house, and I assume you made that before I got here, right?
Correct.
Okay, so we're going to sell the house. Yes. The second, and this is an important one, is the price we set on your home.
Yes.
Okay, it looks like the market's saying $699. Are you guys prepared to list the property at that price today?
Okay, yeah, we're prepared.
Yeah, okay, it sounds like there's a little doubt in your voice. Are you sure? Because this is a big decision. This is about you guys and getting what you want.
Yeah, it's what we want. We want to get it listed, get it sold, and move.
You want to make the move. So we've said, yes, we're going to move. We said, yes, we think the market price is $699. The last question is, who's going to handle the sale of the property for you? And I guess the question for you, Mike, is do you feel I can sell the property?
Well, no, we know you can sell the property, but
yeah.
My wife gets pretty excited talking to a salesperson, and I get pretty anal about talking to it, and I just need to make sure it's the right decision.
You're right. So let's go ahead and do this. You probably just want to talk amongst yourselves for a couple of minutes just to make sure that you're comfortable and you didn't miss anything. Is that right?
Yeah, we need a couple minutes.
Okay. So what I have a couple of phone calls to make. This happens all the time. I'll jump out in my car. I'll make a few phone calls. You need 5 minutes or 10 minutes to think it over.
I hate that when that happens. See, now I'm screwed again. I have no place to go. Okay? It's so, you know what's fascinating to me about this? It's so simple. Why aren't you guys making this complicated and exotic? You know, why aren't you giving a 38-minute dissertation on each objection? Josh, why don't you get more excited about this problem instead of just dealing with it?
I can't hear it.
Why aren't you more excited about this problem?
Which problem?
Well, yeah. Huh?
I hate it when they fall asleep when they're on the stage, for God's sakes. But I mean, all I'm seeing is this logical, straightforward, asking a question and shutting up.
Correct.
I mean, Josh, is it really as simple as you three are making it sound?
It is, and I think staying in the lane that you're suggesting of asking questions, but understanding the psychology that goes behind it. Because when you ask them questions, they're thinking and they're responding, and they're coming to a conclusion that you've already set up, but they're coming to it on their own. They're going through a process of self-discovery. And so the beautiful thing about that, and I've learned a lot about this from you, from my other coach, Steve Powers, is that once they've come to that decision on their own, once they've recognized what the right thing is for them to do, nobody can talk them out of it. And so if I don't talk them into it, they're not going to change their mind later and call me back and cancel. Does that make sense?
Oh, logical, yes.
You know, because I had a problem years ago where I don't have any problem asking for the contract. No problem at all. I could talk them into it on the appointment, but then I would get a cancellation later. And that was because I was talking too much. And as soon as I listened to what you were saying ask questions, Josh, I changed it, and cancellations are really non-existent anymore because they're coming to the decision on their own. And again, because they've come to that conclusion on their own, nobody else is going to talk them out of it.
So would the three of you agree then that the indecision, which is an objection, because that's all it is, it's indecision, can be accelerated or caused more by our talking than anything else?
Yeah, Mike, I want to say this. I mean, how many people in this room have talked to somebody who's a super expressive and they're talking and you're tuning them out? And they sound really smart to them, but you're not paying any attention, correct? That's what happens in a listing appointment when you're telling them how great you are. And when you ask questions, it makes them think and stay totally present in the conversation, which then allows the presentation to be 30 minutes, start to finish. When you're in there an hour and a half, or I went on a listing appointment the other day, Mike, and I walked out of there, I was in there 40 minutes, start to finish, contract signed, and the homeowner said, the agent that was here yesterday was here for 4 hours.
Isn't that amazing? And now think about how much talking they had to do for 4 hours. That's why I can't stand up there and talk for 4 hours. I have to ask a lot of what? When he told me 4 hours, I actually thought he was kidding. Okay? But, you know, the professionalism that they're sharing with you, which all of you have inside of you that has to be brought out, is the simplicity of asking questions. Go ahead, Josh.
The one other thing too is that there's this misconception that when you sell homes at a high volume, that the sellers would want to list with you just because of that. And I can tell you that when I was selling 50 homes a year, or now doing a lot more than that, the seller does not care. They only care about what you're doing on that exact appointment at that exact moment. They just assume everybody in this room sells lots of homes until you show up and screw it up.
Isn't that interesting? So they assume that we can do the job until we show up and screw it up. And you can't screw it up if you're asking questions because you're not making any commitments outside of what is logical to them. Hal, what is your personality style?
Analytical.
Analytical, okay. Josh?
Driver.
Okay, Bernie?
Driver.
Do Josh and Bernie, do you ever get off track and become a little expressive? Did you see the expressive response they gave us? I can't imagine the two of you, or even Hal as an analytical, I mean, I've known them forever. I can't imagine you guys sitting down with this wonderful seller and just talking for 20 minutes. Is my conclusion somewhat right in the observation of the three of you?
I'd pay to see that.
Josh?
What's there to talk about? Let's go work.
What's there to talk about, right? So I asked Bernie earlier, as I've asked both of you time and time again, we only have a couple minutes left. Hal, you have decided that you're going to take one of these agents under your wing. And they're a 15 to 20 deal a year producer. They're a good quality person, which I believe that 99% of this audience is high quality people that maybe have been misguided on how to sell real estate. I've had two people walk up to me at the break and said, I've been with your son Tom for quite a long time and I'm switching to you. I said, thank you. There was no other conversation, okay? Now watch. I say thank you for the business. I don't like to hear that my son Tom is losing a client because that affects the relationship, obviously. And you know, one thing with all of you that have sons and daughters and brothers and sisters, you're always trying to maintain some type of relationship. So when the two of you said that earlier, I just said thank you. And then one said, Jim, how much money I'm saving by switching to you? I said, how much? He said, $10,000, $12,000 a month that I was spending on stuff that I don't spend with you because I just do what you say. Well, you know, I'm probably not going to tell Tom that, okay, because that wouldn't be appropriate and probably would offend him and understandably affect our relationship. But you three guys don't seem to have a lot of empathy towards the client outside of just doing the damn job. Josh, is that a fair observation?
I think that, yes, I think it's a fair assessment. I think that people hire me because they know they're going to get the job done. And
right, so you're the three
I would
of you.
prefer
Go
they
ahead.
look at me professionally than personally.
Please.
I would prefer that they think of Josh as professionally instead of personally.
Okay, so then I'm going to say Hal, Josh, and Bernie. You're each going to take one of these great people under your wing for a year and guide and mentor them. What is the most important thing you're going to work on with a person doing 15, 20 deals a year that wants to go up? Hal,
Well, the first
go
thing
ahead.
I would say is you got to show up every day.
Say it
Because
loud.
you have to show up every day.
Well, they show up. They show up. They're at the office.
Yeah, you know, here's the thing, right? I mean, it's so, what do we say? It's simple, but it's hard, right? We're in a behavioral pattern for 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years, and the change is tough. The work isn't hard, the change is difficult. So what Mike teaches isn't hard to do, it's just hard to conceptualize what you have to become in order to do the work. So if I was taking somebody, Mike, what I would do is take them and teach them your scripts and sit them down and actually have accountability to when they show up. One of the things I've learned by working with my team members is, you know, I'm always the first one to the office, the last one to leave every morning, and I encourage them to show up every day at the same time. I think maybe it was Neil I heard say, Neil Weichel say that when your alarm clock goes off, if you hit the snooze button, that's the first lie you tell yourself every day. Remember that, Neil? You heard that somewhere. It's the first lie. Your alarm goes off at 5 o'clock, you hit the snooze button, you just failed and you hadn't gotten out of bed yet. So be 100% committed to your schedule. Show up, practice the scripts, put in the time, connect the dots. When the money starts to show up, you get a lot more excited. 13 years ago I was broke. I'll make $3.6 million this year.
Good for you. That's great. Mr. Hal Swayze, you got this wonderful young guy under your wing and you're going to help him out. What are you going to tell him?
Well, you got to know the scripts, and you got to role play. So I get to role play with Neil Weichel. I mean, most of the stuff I say, I'm just parroting someone else. I mean, you want to get somebody a great role play. Neil Weichel. I've got Lee Marcus on Tuesday. Brianne Llewellyn on Wednesday. On Monday, I had Michael Young. He fired me. On Friday, I've got young gentleman, Christian Menno. And then I've got Canadian agents that call me. So and then I go to the gym and I say, hey, call me at 7 when I'm driving home on role play. So I've got Matab and I've got Brian Prasad. All these people are calling me. So I'm role playing all the time and we're stealing stuff. There's a PhD in this room with all these people. And if you're not taking advantage of it, it's free. And there's so many amazing people here that if you're missing that, you're missing half the value of what's here. So I would highly recommend practicing and role playing with all these amazing people in this room.
It's great advice. Thank you. Okay, great advice. So, Josh, in your situation, you've got a person, and there's a lot of them in this room, that are capable in doing 30, 40, 50 transactions a year, and they have this picture or this dream that they're going to be up on this stage, which I would love it if they were, talking about how they got to 100, 150, 200 transactions, because that's what they want to do. Sure. What are you going to share with them?
You know, I was in the back row on my first retreat, and I remember, Mike, when you said, if you commit to this process for the next 5 years, you'll change the rest of your life. And I thought about myself when I was sitting back there for a minute, and I thought, first thought was, it's going to take longer than that, for sure. But I thought about the people in the front row, and I thought, you know what? It's got to have to at least take that long, because the way they were and the way they were thinking and the things that they were saying and the things that they were accomplishing, I knew that it's something that couldn't happen overnight. It wasn't a magic pill. This was an absolute life transformation that I was going to have to commit to. And I just, with 100% belief, said, you know what, I'm just going to go, I'm going to hire a coach, and I don't know how I'm going to pay for it. I'll tell my wife when I get home. And I'm going to commit 110% to this because I refuse to fail, and I see the opportunity in front of me. And so that's my advice, is for anybody that's on the fence there, I wouldn't take my word for it or anybody here, but I would just look at the other 400 people in the front row. They've been around a while. And they'll all tell you the same thing. It's just making a commitment to something that will change your life if you let it. But it's going to take some time.
It takes time, effort, money, and hard work. And these three guys are showing us the time, the energy, the money, and the hard work. Yahoo! Outstanding. Really. Hold on.